If you couldn't guess from my name, I have a pretty significant interest in older technology. And while it really does hurt to say this, with Windows XP being over 20 years old, it's beginning to reach that point where its best games and software are too old to work well on modern Windows, but too intensive to run in most virtual machines without a hitch. This is why I set out on a quest. A quest to find a cheap XP tower that I could easily upgrade for everything Windows XP related. This quest took me to a place I often find myself, the Shop Goodwill auction website. Here, Goodwills across the country list products for dumbasses like me to buy from the comfort of their own homes. What's nice is you can get these said products shipped to you for the low fee of... While I normally peruse this website in search of video games, often with other people in a Discord call, I suddenly remembered my desire for an XP-era PC one night, and opted to stumble blindly into the computer section of the website. I was in a call with a few friends, and upon stumbling upon an unassuming tower, I was looking for a Dell of some sort and glossed over it. One of them yelled,
"Oh my god, CisNet PC.
I placed a bid immediately and won for $10 plus 20 in shipping. About a week later, the PC arrives at my door. Meet the CisNet Windows XP machine, or as I've affectionately dubbed it, the CisHead. It was a messy time getting it up and running, but it's currently totally working. Here's the story. Upon getting the machine in the mail, by the way, sorry for the freehand footage, that really sucks, my tripod's broken at the moment, I immediately opened it up. Upon revealing the insides to the world, a few observations were immediately made. One, it was nowhere near as dusty as I was expecting. Hell, it's cleaner than my main PC. Two, it was lacking a hard drive. That last point was annoying, but I came prepared with a spare 1TB drive I set apart for this project. The PC had SATA, so no need to buy anything extra. After inspecting a few other things with the PC, I began the process of inserting the hard drive. It was then I learned that I fucking suck at putting in hard drives. Long story short, too much pressure was applied to the data port on the drive while trying to get it into position, and it snapped. So that sucks. I could probably fix it if I really wanted to, but honestly, I'm not in the mood. Thankfully, I had a drive I could easily borrow from my main PC and use here. It's a laptop drive, same capacity, but not as fast at 5200 RPM compared to the 7200 RPM I plan to use. I just kinda plugged it in and threw it in the spare 3.5-inch bag. I'll mount it properly at some point, but I just wanted to get the thing working beforehand. With the hard drive inserted, I was ready to give the machine a boot to see if everything was working. I pressed power and...
Moment of truth.
Yeah, 3 beeps, jack shit on the monitor. Some quick Googling, and me being smart,
I get the inkling it's a memory issue, but I'm not 100%.
showed that it was a memory issue. I went in and checked the RAM and noticed one of the clips was undone. In hindsight, I probably should have just reseated the memory from the start, but I didn't, so, no shock, the PC didn't boot after reclipping the clip. Cue me re-entering the PC and fully reseating the RAM. Something funny that my complete dumbass forgot to get on camera happened during this process. As, when I undid both clips, the stick literally flew directly out of the slot. Really mad I stopped filming at that point. Anyways, the PC posted fine after that, and I was able to get into the BIOS and verify everything was good. After that, it was time to get Windows XP installed. When I went to put my 110% legal DVD into the drive, though...
It is. Fuck. What? Why?
Yeah, it was stuck. No clue why, my bet's on shipping damage. I went and got a paperclip, and after some very healthy noises...
Healthy drive? Oh!
the drive opened fine. The tray just doesn't like to open sometimes, but aside from that, the drive works perfectly. It was time to install Windows. From this point on, it was mostly smooth sailing. I got through the first bit of install perfectly fine, but when I went to format the hard drive, I made a fatal error. I picked a full format, not realizing the implications. I think I'll let the footage speak for itself.
It's been like 20 minutes and it's still only 12%. It has been an hour and a half since I recorded the last clip. Why didn't I select quick?
I was able to raise a family, die, and then be born again, but finally, the drive was formatted, and I can move on to the actual Windows installation. This went perfectly fine, shockingly enough, and I was able to get to a desktop. It's here that I, for the most part, stopped filming. I spent about 6 straight hours getting drivers, games, and software running on this machine off camera. I, no joke, stayed up about until 1 AM running benchmarks and games just to get an idea of how this machine performed. I may or may not have just realized that I haven't really talked about the specs, so let's quickly go over that. The machine has an Intel Core 2 Duo 6200 processor clocked at 1.86 GHz, a single gig of RAM, I'm going to put that up to 4 soon, and a very unfortunate GeForce GT 210 graphics card. Yep, this machine is one of the most maligned graphics chips ever produced by Nvidia, and it's easily this machine's biggest problem. It's going to be replaced with an 8800 GTS soon. The CPU is quite alright for what I want, so it can stay, for now at least. A lot of this PC is liable for replacement, but for now, everything at least works. Now that we know what we're working with, let's see how well this thing runs with some games. All these benchmarks are collected using Fraps. Starting off with Unreal Tournament 2004, which is one of my favorite games of all time. It's easily one of the best games this thing can run. We're seeing really good results. It runs at a mix of medium and high settings at 960p and manages an average of 117 FPS. It's really playable and really fun. Next up, we've got the Gearbox port of Halo running at high settings with VSync enabled, or thinking I'd have disabled it. It manages a constant 60 FPS, although the frame rate was liable to drop a bit during big action. Overall though, it ran Halo really well. Continuing on the FPS tangent with a bit of the original Far Cry, this game also ran spectacularly at a mix of medium and high settings. The game managed an average of 84 FPS at all times, only ever really dipping during load screens and very heavy action. I also noticed when I tried to bump the res up to 1080, it had a much worse frame rate. I had to lower the settings down to low to get it close to 60. This game seems to run best at 720. I always forget just how much fun the original Far Cry is, and I'm totally going to play some more of it. Next, we've got some strategy goodness with SimCity 4 running at 10224x768 at high settings. I really should have lowered these, but I didn't, so oops. We're starting to see the PC falter a bit here, as running a large city with a few disasters could tank the frame rate hard. While doing regular city stuff, the game ran fine, but it could definitely tank when a disaster or anything else intensive happened. Overall though, it really wasn't terrible. Continuing on the strategy tangent, Civ 4 ran fairly alright at 720p with a mix of medium and low settings. When moving around the map in a pretty late game scenario pictured here, the game could drop a few frames, but it wasn't ever too bad in terms of playability. I'm definitely going to sit down and play a few games of this at some point, when I can get dragged away from Civ 5. Next, we've got The Elder Scrolls Oblivion running at 720p in low settings. This game really didn't run well a lot of the time, with combat dropping to the low double digits and consistent frame drops whenever any big particle effects or enemies attacked. It fared slightly better in underground areas, but Oblivion was pushing it just a bit too much. Finally, we have to answer the question. Can it run Crysis? The answer is a surprising yes. Although there's a pretty huge asterisk on that. The game is running at 768p with low settings, and managed around 30 FPS while doing so. Action tanked the frame rate a lot, and it's far from a smooth experience, plus the game dipped hard when loading new things, but it was totally playable. I'm genuinely impressed. The gaming performance wasn't spectacular on this PC, and I chalk that up to a lack of memory and the horrible GPU in this PC. It can definitely run some games fairly well, but after around 2005, you'll start to run into some real bottlenecks. I was genuinely impressed with what this box could do though, and definitely spent far too much time than I'm willing to admit playing UT 2004, Far Cry, and The Sims 2. This PC is more of a project box for me than anything else, and I already have a few upgrades that need to happen sooner than later. The DVD drive desperately needs to be replaced as it's consistently stuck most of the time. I've already taken it out. The GPU also needs an upgrade, and the machine could probably use some more RAM to boot. In fact, I've already bought a few upgrades, including a new graphics card and 4 gigs of RAM, so keep a lookout for an update sooner rather than later. This device is far from perfect, but overall manages to impress me quite a lot whenever I use it. This isn't the last time you'll be seeing this PC for sure.